But look, in the Morgan Gibbs White update we did speak about, from the ITK Himothy, he said that Levy is not afraid to move on if this Morgan Gibbs White situation keeps dragging on. And Sebastian Vidal has said that Tottenham are set to hold talks for Liverpool midfielder Harvey Elliott as the Gibb White deal slows down. Elliott is open to leaving in search of regular game time. Newcastle, Brighton are also showing strong interest. We have seen West Ham apparently in for Harvey Elliott as well. So I've seen reports over the last couple of weeks about what Liverpool want for Harvey Elliott. They're saying 40 million with a buyback option or 50 million straight out. So, I mean, what do you think about that? Does that represent value for Harvey Elliott?
So how much with a buyback option?
40 with a buyback option, 50 straight out with no buyback option.
I wouldn't do a buyback option because I don't think you want to be beholden to a big six club like that when you're supposed to be challenging with them. So you don't want to give them the option to, let's say we sign Elliot and he becomes our best player. You don't want to then Liverpool to steal him right back off you, do you? That would be ridiculous. Yeah. So you'd have to do it straight out. I'm a big fan of Harvey Elliott. I think he's a phenomenal player. Not so sure about maybe some of his personality and attitudes kind of things. I think he's a bit of a shithouse, and I think it's one of those players you love him when he's on your team and you hate him when he's not on your team kind of player.
It's enough, but you know we love signing these players, don't we? We signed Kudus, off the back of fighting with all those Spurs players. We signed Richarlison off the back of him and Cuti Romero. So it'll be quite fitting if we sign Harvey Elliott and he'll come in and have a whole introduction video with Richarlison.
You're saying we're trying to get a team full of bastards. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Finally, Jose Mourinho said it. Jose said it, so it's getting done.
I'm a really big fan of his. I think if he got more game time at Liverpool, I think he could easily be a starter at Liverpool. I think obviously he's right now he's still a fairly young player. They've got unbelievable talent in the positions he plays, and obviously he's not going the right way ahead of Salah. They signed Szoboszlai for big money and things. But I do think whenever he plays for Liverpool, I'm always impressed. Whenever he has a cameo, wherever he comes on, or whenever he starts, I think he's really, really great. I think the thing is he's very similar to like a Kulusevski. So I don't really see a massive difference between him and Decky. I think they're very similar profiles. Maybe Decky's a bit more kind of physical. Maybe Elliott's a bit more technical, but I think both of them quite similar kind of profiles, and they play in similar positions. Is he a alternative to Gibbs White? Potentially, I do think he's a player who can play 10, 8 and on the wing. So in that sense, yes. I think if he's coming to Tottenham in search of more regular game time from Liverpool, I think he's going to find it very tough to break into our team as well. But I think it adds depth. I don't think he's as good as Gibbs White, but I think he adds depth to our squad. And I think very much he challenges to get into the team. And I think in terms of the player of his age and his quality, he can easily break into our team. I think he's got phenomenal ability. And I think as well, more regular game time. And once he becomes more of a fixture in a team, I think he's ready to become like a main player in a team, even in the top six. I think for sure he's top six quality. I think he's a really, really good player. I think Liverpool should try and keep hold of him because I think he's fantastic depth for them. But maybe he's sick of being depth, and maybe he wants to be a starter somewhere. The question is Tottenham that place for him? If he's thinking, look, I'm sick of being on the bench, I want to go somewhere I'm starting, I don't know if Tottenham is the place where you're guaranteed. Does he want to move to somewhere like a Brighton, where I would think he's completely guaranteed, maybe one of their main players, and teams like that? At Tottenham, I'm not saying he can't become a regular star, but obviously he's competing with the likes of Maddison, Kulusevski, Kudus, where
he wants Champions League football though.
If he wants Champions League football,
he doesn't want to move to a club where he sees it as like a step out of the elite. He still wants Champions League football as one of the pressing issues here.
Well, if that's true, then Tottenham's probably his best bet. Newcastle. Actually, Newcastle's probably his best bet. But look, I'm a big fan of his. And if I think he's a pretty decent alternative to Gibbs. So he wouldn't be my first choice, but I would say someone like Xavi Simons or if Eze, something like that. If that kind of quality is available, he'd be ahead of Elliot. But I think Elliot is a very good alternative, in my opinion.
Still, if Elliot was here, in my opinion, he would see more minutes than what he did at Liverpool last season. And I think, he would be used in competition for Maddison. He'll fill in on the wings as well. So I think he's a player that will see significant game time at Spurs next season, obviously, if Morgan Gibbs White's not here. So, look, I think he's a very good player. I think it would be a really good option for us, but I just want us to get Morgan Gibbs White over the line. I can't be asked to talk about all these other players.
Yeah, it's true.
Next up, we're going to talk about Adam Wharton again. The Mail are reporting that Tottenham hold an interest in Palace's Adam Wharton, but it's not moving as it stands. So we have heard various ITKs and stuff talking about Spurs very much looking at Adam Wharton. We have heard as well that Palace are looking for around 90 to 100 million for the young central midfielder. You know, unbelievable talent, great player in Adam Wharton. I would love him in the team. But you're talking about 90 to 100 million for Adam Wharton. I think it's a bit crazy.
It's crazy, and we're not going to spend that. It's just no chance. No, we're not going to do it. And even when you're talking about investment, we're not going to. I mean, I reckon we'll probably spend maximum 65, 70. I just can't see.
That's what we were spending without the investment.
Yeah, but not on more than one player. We did it on one player, right? I can't see us jumping to that amount for Adam Wharton. As much as I rate him and I think he's a quality player, I don't think he's worth that amount right now. I think it's a bit of a ridiculous fee, and I can't see Tottenham stumping up that cash for him. I think if that's where they are, even if it's a start of negotiation and we can get them down to 80, are we really going to pay 80 million for him? I find that hard to believe as well. Plus, if Eze and Guehi do leave, does the price go up then for him? I think it's going to be this summer anyway. That's too difficult to do. I just can't see us bringing him in. I'd love it. I would love to spend whatever it is to get him in, because I think he's got phenomenal ability and potential, and I think we haven't seen anywhere near the best of him. He's very young, and he's still got to come into his prime, and he's playing at this level at 21. He's only been in the Premier League 18 months, and he's settled in so well. So I think this guy is going to go from strength to strength and become a top. You know, he's already been to a major tournament with England as well. So this guy is quality, but I just find it hard to believe we're going to be able to prize him away from Palace.
Yeah, and I understand that. I mean, with the way Spurs have handled business pretty much throughout the history of the Premier League, particularly under Daniel Levy, completely understand why you think that way. But, you know, if it was my opinion, and if I had that money just to slap down on Adam Wharton, would I actually do it? And I think I would. Because I think he would, you know, fit into that midfield so well, being that sitter, that orchestrator, you know, dictating the tempo of play from deep, got a bite in the challenge as well, really aggressive player. I think he would come on leaps and bounds under Frank in this Spurs team, heartbeat of the midfield. Imagine him sitting with a Gibbs White and Maddison further up the pitch, or him sitting in a double pivot with Bergvall and a Gibbs White or a Maddison just in front. I think that would just be incredible for Tottenham, and I think it would take us up levels.
I agree, and I would love to bring him in. But if you're looking at the club's point of view, would you rather spend that amount on Wharton, 80 to 100 million potentially, and also you sign him, he's 21, is he blocking pathways for people like Gray and stuff like that in midfield? Or do you go for like a Paulinho for a lot less potentially, and you have him here for 2 or 3 years, and then by the time he's ready to leave, you've got Gray who's ready made to step in, and that's a lot more cost effective, and there's, you know, a pathway for Gray to be, you know, your regular player in that position potentially.
I think Adam Wharton, because if you sign João Paulinho for 20, 30 million or whatever it may be, in 2 years you need to go replace him, you need to buy another player anyway.
Gray's there.
Yeah, but you still need another player to compete with Gray. Like if you've got Adam Wharton competing with Gray... And then
Wharton's probably maybe a lot cheaper if he doesn't sign a new deal in that in between.
Potentially, but you know, you're running that risk, aren't you? You don't know what the future holds. He can get a big move to someone else in that
Not
time.
If they're demanding that man, he's not going anywhere.
Well, you don't know that. I mean, Chelsea spent 100 million on Moises Caicedo, who only had just 1 year in the Premier League at that point. Like, you never know what can happen in the future, particularly of someone of his level. And, you know, he's only going to be getting better and better and better. So I think if you spend that money on Wharton, you have pretty much 2 midfielders, 2 number 6s who are highly regarded, who have got big futures in the game, battling it out for the next, 5 years, 6 years minimum.
It's fair. Look, I would love to bring him in. I just can't see the club doing it.
Next up, we're going to talk about Garnacho. These rumours coming back now. And Chris Wheeler from the Daily Mail saying that Tottenham are monitoring the situation of Manchester United winger Alejandro Garnacho. And yeah, I mean, first of all, I don't want him. Second of all, I just can't see this being any sort of viable option for Spurs. Like, how many more wingers are we going to add to the club? Unless like a considerable amount of wingers are leaving this summer, I just can't see Garnacho even being an option for us.
I don't see where he fits in. He first of all, his best positions on the left. We have Tel, Son, who can play there. Got Mikey Moore can play there. Odeberg is strong positions off the left. even Kudus now can play on the left sometimes. I don't really see Garnacho being a viable option. The money they're going to demand, they're not going to sell for us to cheap, I would think. I know that they want to get rid. The initial, at the start of the summer, initially they were saying upwards of 70 million, which is, I think, a farcical fee for someone like Garnacho. But even if we get a good deal, say 40 million or something, why? We've just signed Tell, so what's the point of signing Garnacho ahead of him? I don't really see a space in the squad for him. I don't really like some of the stuff I've seen from him in terms of his entitlement. He feels like he's entitled to certain things when he's spitting his dummy out the pram when he only got 20 minutes in the final and things like that. Look, I kind of understand you do want your player to be unhappy with their playing time in a sense because you want them to have that ambition to start. But there's also difference between determination and entitlement, and I think he was bordering on entitled. I think
I don't think he was bordering on it. I think it was full in, man. I think it was horrible the way he was acting at certain points last season, to be honest. And you just look at after the Europa League final. I know he came on and actually made a really big impact in that game, but I think the fallout from that was horrible. And you got to respect the manager's decision, especially. Well, not even especially. I think, you got to always respect what the manager is saying, especially if you're a 21-year-old player trying to make your way in the game. Yeah, I know he's fairly experienced for his age, but when you're 21 years old, you're nowhere near your peak yet. Just know your role a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, bide your time, and then when you get to your peak years, 24, 25, 26, 27 and beyond, you can start being a bit more entitled when you've actually done a bit more in the game.
Yeah, that's fair. I do think he's a talented player. I just think I don't see a need or a space for him.
Yeah, I agree with that. A bit of a one from left field, this one, again from ITK Himothy on Twitter. He claims that Tottenham are very interested in an unnamed Brighton player. So we've racked our heads together to figure out who this Brighton player could be. I mean, the obvious one would point to Carlos Baleba. Obviously in the six, had an unbelievable season with Brighton last season. I would love him. I mean, if he would probably cost a similar amount to Wharton, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Obviously, Brighton are known for maximising the fees they get for their players. Obviously, got 60 million for Cucurella, 100 million for over 100 million for Moises Caicedo. So I don't think they're in the business of selling for cheap, but they do sell. But they're not. They don't make it easy for you.
Yeah.
Baleba's a lot of talk about him ever since he's come to Brighton, and I think he's done fantastic in replacing Caicedo. I think there's rightfully a lot of talk about him, and I think he's destined probably for one of the bigger clubs down the line. I don't know about guaranteed this summer, but again, he's going to cost a big amount of money. I think it'd be a fantastic signing in that number kind of 6/double pivot 8 position, maybe the more defensive 8 kind of thing. I think he'd be perfect for that. I think he's done phenomenal at Brighton. It's just, again, if they're going to command a Caicedo size fee, no chance.
Yeah, there are a number of players, though, that it could be that the profiles that Spurs are looking for. I think, Jack Hinchelwood can be one as well to provide cover for us. Van Hecker, if Romero was to leave. It could be Minte as well, who we've spoken about. I'm a massive fan of Minte. Do you reckon it could be any of those three players?
I would have said Minte, but I think Kudus puts that to bed. I don't think we get him. I like Hinchelwood, very versatile, can play midfield, defence, all that kind of stuff. He would provide good cover at fullback. So maybe he's one. He's also still quite young, so maybe he's one in consideration. But I don't think we sign him to start in our midfield. But I do think maybe you sign him as kind of cover for a lot of different positions. But are we signing him to play in midfield, or are we signing him to play at fullback? It's a difficult one. Van Hecker, I think he's a good centre back. Actually, he's tall and he's actually not as slow as you might think. And I think he's really, when he first broke into the team, he was a bit iffy. But I think he's become a fantastic centre back over the last year or so for Brighton. So I think he's one. Maybe if Romero leaves, will Van Hecker looking at? He's actually quite good on the ball as well. Very underrated. He's a good passer. So I think Van Hecker would maybe be one. Again, probably I'd be surprised if we're interested in him now while Romero's still here, but maybe that's one. I would say definitely if Ange was still here, I would have said Matoma. Now he's not, and we've signed Tell and we've signed Kudus and other wingers. I don't know if Matoma's on the radar, and he's going to cost a lot of money at the moment. I can't think that we're going to be signing another forward player right now. I mean, Rutter, I like him as well. But I mean, could he replace Richarlison potentially? But he's more of like a number 10 / like 9.5. I wouldn't be. I mean, João Pedro's gone. I can't think of too many other players. I mean, I would have said Kadioglu, but he just had a terrible injury last season.
What about Estepinian?
Left back Estepinian,
cover or competition for places with a doggy, because Estepinian has fallen by the wayside a little bit at Brighton. Apparently, they've signed another left back this summer, Decipher exactly, who's very highly rated from Club Brugge. And there has been rumours of Estepinian wanting out this summer, or that they're looking to do deals for Estepinian this summer. So could he be one to provide competition for place on the left wing?
Left back. I mean, there are rumours that we're looking at a left back. Again, it's the boring conversation. How do we make the squad numbers work? But if we decide that we can make it work by signing a left back, I think him as backup to a doggy would be a really good option. Albeit he did have that big injury, didn't he? Well, he's now about 18 months after it. I don't think he's ever been as good as he was before the injury. It was a big one. He was out for nearly a year, I think. I remember he came back against Tottenham, I think, and scored that goal from 30 yards in one of his early games back, I remember.
But I think it was his first game back.
Yeah, it might have been his first game. I'm not saying he's been terrible, but he hasn't been the same. But if we think he can get back to his best, I think him and a doggy battling out would be a good option.
Yeah.
But they signed Kadioglu last season. I really like him. But unfortunately, early on, he got a big injury. He was pretty much ruled out for the whole season. So I doubt he's one of the options. But I really like him. I think he would be a good option as well.
Evan Ferguson?
Nah.
What has happened to Evan Ferguson? Because, he was like the talk of the town when he first broke through. 18 years old, scoring hat-tricks in the Premier League, unbelievable goals-to-game ratio. And then he got that injury, or got a couple of injuries, and he just hasn't been the same since.
Injuries, and he's a young player going through a tough time. That's sometimes young players go through these times, especially when they get injured like that. So clearly there was a talent there. But again,
about £100 million player at one point.
At one point, he was banging goals at 18, and when you do that in the Premier League, you're going to be talked about. And that was definitely the case with Evan Ferguson. He really burst onto the scene, but that is now, you're talking a couple of years ago. So I think, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this guy ain't going to amount to anything or anything like that, but he needs, maybe he just needs a fresh start. West Ham was a disaster loan last season, did it even under a manager who knows him well, couldn't get him playing and scoring. So maybe he just needs a fresh start with a club that believes in him and is going to give him the time to rebuild his confidence and get scoring goals again. And once he does, I think people will start talking about him again, because clearly he's a talented player. But at the moment, going to clubs where he's a bit part player, maybe back up, and he's getting a few minutes here and there, and he's still struggling for that confidence, it's going to be tough for him. But he needs to go somewhere he's going to start and be trusted.
Yeah. Well, look, those are rumours. Spurs apparently are very interested in an unnamed Brighton player. Let us know who you think that Brighton player is in the comment section below. And last but not least, we're going to talk about this report linking Richarlison to Palmeiras out in Brazil. A Brazilian publication called Terra say that Palmeiras are making a bold attempt to sign Richarlison. Club president Leila Pereira has been in direct contact for the last 2 weeks, attempting to convince him. Palmeiras are prepared to get close to Tottenham Hotspur's asking price, which is set at £55 million, and make the forward one of the highest players in South American football.
Yeah, I mean, I would drive there myself. They're going to bid 55 million. Honestly, that would basically be getting our money back. I wonder if I'll even be making a profit, because it was 50 plus 10 million in add-ons, wasn't it? I do wonder how many add-ons we've actually hit, because he's been injured so much. As much as he's done well, I do wonder. I wonder if it's amount of appearances or amount of goals or whatever it is.
Have we qualified for the Champions League since Richarlison has been here?
Just this season, I think. We were in the Champions League when we signed him, but we qualified only this season.
I reckon one of the clauses was Champions League qualification.
Probably. So maybe that's one of the clauses we've hit. But is it if he gets over a certain amount of goals in a season, or is it per goal or per appearance? All these different things. So I wonder how much of those add-ons we've hit. So if we get him 55 minutes, there's a chance we even made a profit on him potentially. I think that'd be a fantastic bit of business from Tottenham for a player who, unfortunately, just can't be trusted to remain fit, and that's just been the problem at the moment with him. I think he's a good player. In fact, there was a stat that was good doing the rounds. over the last couple of days, the top 4 players with the best goals to minute ratio the last 2 Premier League seasons combined, and Richarlison sits 4th in the whole Premier League, which is very impressive. And that goes to show that when he is on the pitch, he does score goals and he is a threat. Just the problem is getting him on the pitch, and it's now been 3 seasons where he's had problems every single season with injuries, especially the last 2 have been absolutely disastrous for him. Whenever he seems like he's getting fit, something else happens and he seems to break down. A few times as well, he's broken down on the first game back. That he's come back. So he's worked on his fitness. Every time they go, oh, we've cracked it, we're doing, how amount of times Ange said about him, oh, we're doing something different with him, we're dealing with him differently, and he'd come back and get injured again. It's like, seems to be a sort of puzzle they can't really find the missing pieces to. Now we've got new medical staff, we've got all these different things. Can they crack the code with him and get him to stay fit? If they can, I've got no problem with him staying. As I've already said, I think he's good enough. I think he's a good backup striker. I think when he plays, he scores.
How many chances do we give him?
That's the problem. That's the problem. And if they're going to bid 55 million, I would love to do that deal. Does Richarlison want to go back to Brazil right now? Does he want to stay in Europe? He's got to think of his Brazil place. Is that the best thing for him? That's another question. Are they really going to bid that amount? I highly doubt. I mean, apparently I read their record transfer is 20 million. So the fact they're going to break it by 35.
They've also just got a heap load of cash from the Club World Cup.
Fair. So that's got to be played into it as well. But are they going to basically splash it all on Richarlison? And maybe they will. I don't know. I don't know what they're willing to do. But I would love to get. I think 55 million would be a brilliant deal, and it would suit everyone. It's just whether Richarlison would agree to it. I'd be shocked if Tottenham wouldn't accept lower than 55. But if they're willing to spend that, then fair play.
You'd be shocked if Spurs would be willing to accept lower than 55.
It won't.
I mean, I think Spurs would be willing to accept like 25, 30 million for him.
That's what I'm saying. So, I'll be shocked if they would be willing to accept. So I'll be shocked if they are forced to bid 55.
Yeah, I think that bit is a dream in terms of a Spurs.
Is it said we're demanding that, or they want to bid that?
Apparently, no. They're saying they're willing to go close to it. That's our valuation of him.
That's our valuation.
I don't believe that. Like, our valuation for him is not 55 million. I guarantee you that now.
No chance.
Like, if a bid came in 25, 30 million, I think we would accept it quickly. Really quickly. So
I reckon when starting negotiations, we're probably opening it like 35. That's what I reckon.
And we're probably willing to go in between 25 and 35.
Yeah.
30.
Probably 25 plus some add-ons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, something like that. I think
I don't think Palmeiras will be a bad move for him, to be honest. I think he would go there. I think he would be happy playing back in Brazil. I think he would smash it out there. I think he'll get loads of goals. If he can prove his fitness there, I don't have any doubts that he'll be back in that Brazil squad and smashing out in Brazil.
Yeah, and with Ancelotti, I don't know what's going on with him at the moment. But
well, he's not going to jail, so
if he's going to remain as manager, then even if he's playing in Brazil, I think Ancelotti will still call him up.
Yeah, exactly. So look, that is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below about all the news stories that we've brought to you today. Still waiting to hear on the Morgan Gibbs White situation. So that is that.